イルーがあたいと一緒にこっそり魔物の背後に近づいて奇襲で全部倒すってのはどうしてもダメなのか？
That was another D&D campaign.
あたいは1ラウンドで3回動けるんだ。魔物は全部で4体しかいない。
僕が正面から注意を引くことはできますが、奇襲は。は
あ、まあ仕方ないわよね。イルーガは公正の杯の純粋
Wait,
騎士を
so you have obviously a rogue, you have a knight. What is she? Is she a merchant? She chose a merchant class in her D&D campaign?
ああ、もしイルーガが背後から奇襲をかけようとしたら、背信の騎士に転落し、すべての行動に大きなペナルティーが課せられる。
まずいわね。一気に全部の魔物を倒さないと。
もう一つ方法があります。僕が荒れ狂う波で。
ダメダメ。そんなことしたらあんたが除名されちゃうでしょ。せっかくに。
ですが、このままではナビアさんが長い間プレイ。
あたいなんてまだ始めたばっかりだぞ。そうね。だ
ナビア、クルム掛けはしまっておく。
全く効果なしかよ。このテーブルに置いてあるやつにさっきの花救世主の登場ね。ちょうどいいところに来てクロリンで。これってルールや。
旅人が同意すればな。
ねえ、私たちと一緒に冒険を続けてくれない？きっとやりたいはずだよね。そんなこと聞いてる場合じゃないって。これ以上話してたらあたいたち爆薬に吹き飛ぶ。
分かった。だがもう今選べる技能は調理か医学のどちらかだ。どうする？変更するか
？Wait. Like, I find this kind of weird. She's asking which one would you like to change, but these are all learn cooking. And like, well, I want to keep medicine. I could swap cooking, but like, so is this learn medicine and reselect cooking?
分かった。あなたが学びたい技能は。
Yeah, I guess.
ではゲーム晩作付き。皆が困り果てている。
Oh, I thought I would.
見覚えのある声。
So basically, I'm abandoning one of my skills.
久しぶり、みんな。私の助けが必要みたいだね。旅人、どうしてここ？
I mean, the sucky thing is that both of them are non-combat classes. So it's like, great, awesome. We need to wipe out 4 enemies in 1 turn. And neither of the classes I could have picked allowed me to do anything like that. I mean, medicine maybe. You know, maybe I make a sleeping potion that I could use on the last one.
なんかこいつ
It also just kind of weird that, like, they're like, oh, if he attacked from behind, he'd be an Oathbreaker Knight. It's like, well, why can't he rush for? I guess if they're already behind all of them, but couldn't he like taunt all 4 of them? And then Jehoda, in her turn, sneaks up on 3 of them from behind, while he takes out 1 from the front. Like, he taunts them to attract their attention, and then now he's no longer attacking from behind, while Jehoda sneaks around, right? If Jehoda's already hidden, then she should be able to still sneak and get them from behind.
Sasuga. ナビアさんが以前話していた。
ファントムハンターたちは語り合いたいことが数多くあったが、今この瞬間はでは戦闘を続行する。それと新しい団員が急遽参加。
旅人は急に参加したわけじゃないわ。ただちょっとの
隠しカードの数は数えた。
ええ、じゃあ本来の作戦通りに進めます。私とイルーガは正面でヤホダと旅人は魔物の背。よっしゃ、あたいに任せとけでもなんであんた医者なんだよ。
旅人の薬箱には確かに協力。
そうなのか。テーブルトークシアター。さすが旅人ね。すぐに戦い方を思いついた。
分かっています。純粋騎士の責務はチームメンバーを
ああ、全然いいって。あたい今はいじゃあ任せたわよ。
では僕はこの純粋騎士の盾に。
純粋騎士は盾を掲げ、騎士の進言を高らかに詠唱した。その後方に潜んでいた。
Yeah, okay, so that's obviously a taunt. And that was the kind of thing, I was like, why do you need why? Like, if she can kill 3 of them instantly, then why can't he taunt 1 and kill it? Unless the taunt itself is the action, and he can no longer do any action after doing it. Is that guaranteed, or did I just get actually super lucky?
ファントムハンターは薬箱からその薬剤を敵の足元にこっそり転がすとやったぞ。
よかった。次は何かに足を噛まれたってアシュル、どうしてここに。もうこんな時間か。やば、ごめん待ってくれアシュル。
どうやら今日はここナビア、魔物の駒を元の場所に戻せ。私は見ていたからな。それはまたの機会にゆっくり。
そういえば前に同僚を誘う。ゲームはお預けになっちゃったし、この機会に
フリンズさんのことですね。
それじゃあ手土産を買ってから会いに行きましょう。
旅人は
その時は私たちと。さすが私の相棒。
Oh, interesting. Is that going to be a follow-up anecdote? But yeah, I mean, it seems like they've decided on doing anecdotes instead of proper, quests. I'm of 2 minds of that. Like, on one hand, I do like it, right? Like, I do think the anecdotes are really cool. I do think the anecdotes are good. Let's see. How much money do I have? Am I good on money? 2 million? It's kind of good, I guess. I'm low on level up materials, though. So I'm of 2 minds of it, right? Like, on one hand, I do like the previous ones because it's a far more in-depth background for the characters, right? And realistically, I think every single 4-star should get them. Like, they've already done a bunch. In fact, it was crazy that they did so many. Right now, oh, here we go. Wait, how do I look at them again? No, that's bad. Huh. How the fuck do I look at them again? That's the question overview, but where's my... Maybe I have to go into characters. Yeah. Sorry, guys. So, it's crazy because they did actually... I think Noelle had 2 sets of endings. Like, Noelle had... Damn it. Noelle had 2. I think... I thought someone else had 2 as well. Maybe Noelle... Oh, I guess Noelle was the only one then. But... they were really good, like, introductions to these characters, because, like, as 4 stars, they didn't have character quests. So, the only way we interact with them are on events and within the actual story itself. So these gave a little more leeway to like go more in depth with these characters and provide them with their own basically mini story quests. But I do understand why they kind of fell by the wayside, is because if you look at this whole thing, zoom out. If you look at the whole thing, like, they had so many, like, they had to do so many scenes, right? Like, there was 5 endings. They had to make 5 endings for this. Now, some of them obviously are going to be relatively the same. Like, the ones that branch and are relatively close to each other had, you know, the same start, but you still had to do a lot. You know? You still had to create a scene. You had to create branching paths. Like, it's a lot of effort for these. So I understand why they don't want to do them anymore, because it is a lot of effort. And maybe they have the maybe they have the data that shows that people just didn't do these. Perhaps, you know, maybe that's the thing, is that they have data that shows that people just weren't doing them anymore. And so I understand why they don't. But it is still a little disappointing because, like, it is really cool. How do I view the letter? Oh, there we go. So they just were really cool because cool. So yeah, it's a little disappointing because, like, they've added new, like, so obviously they covered a lot of the old original 4 stars, but they've been adding some new 4 stars and haven't really they've been adding new 4 stars and haven't really been doing new hangout events. So, like, that was cool that, like, Lynette was one of the newer 4 stars. So it's like, oh cool, they did one from Fontaine, but there's, you know, a bunch of other characters they haven't done, right? Like, they have done literally no Nightline characters, and Lynette was the only Fontainian one they've done. You know, so they've added Nightline characters. Like, we didn't really have one for him. Like, we didn't have one for him, although he did have a character. There was an event that was there. Like, and she was involved in another world quest, so it's like, maybe they thought, well, they've done their own thing, but, like, we don't really have much about Mika. He only kind of just popped up during that one Mondstadt thing. Yeah, we didn't have a Rosaria one either, I don't think. We had a Chung Yun one. We had a Kyle one. But basically, it's just like, it is a little disappointing that we have these characters that are really interesting, and we're just not seeing anything else with them. Which is, like, I get it if they honestly just weren't that popular. Like, sure, right? Like, it's hard. Like, we think of it like I mean, I think of it like, oh well, I thought it was really cool. Like, they should always do those. They're all really nice. I think they were well made and interesting. But it could just be that they saw that, oh, only like 5% of the player base were doing them. And so they decided, well, based on how much effort it is to do these things, they were like, nah, fuck that then. Let's not bother. You know, which is understandable. Like, I get it, right? Sure. If you're not gonna, if the player base aren't doing them, then you can't really expect them to invest this much time and effort into doing content that like no one's engaging with, right? And anecdotes are far easier to do because you don't need a huge long story, you don't need multiple branching paths, you know, you don't need a ton of cutscenes to implement them. So I get it, right? I do. I understand why they're done. You know, I get it. It is still just disappointing nonetheless. Where it's like, and that's why but anecdotes aren't bad. It's not like I dislike anecdotes. I actually do like anecdotes a lot. They're really cool because it allows them to branch off and do like for all characters, right? Because that was the other kind of thing. It's like, well, they did character quests for the 5 stars, so it's like, well, they just so like hangout events were only for 4 stars, which makes sense because the actual 5 stars had their own proper character events. But it is kind of sad when they never appear again. Where it's like, oh no, like we've already done the character. We've already done this guy's character event, so we'll just never see them again. It's like, well, that's kind of shit, you know. Characters that you still may like, you never see again because they had their character event, so like they're done. You know, there's also an element where I'm like, okay, I understand why people don't like that too. Like, they want to see more of the characters they like. So, anecdotes allow the best of both worlds, where it's like, yes, we can bring back characters. You know, we can bring back all sorts of characters. Like, we're not restricted to any sort of artificial limits, like forcing, you know, only 4 stars, only 5 stars. They can do whatever they want. Whatever character they can think of a story for. And it's also not limited by, like, long, grandiose stories. Whereas that was kind of the rough thing with hangout events. It's like, well, for a hangout event, like, you had to come up with 5 endings, so you had to realistically come up with a few branching paths. You have to come up with at least, like, 2 stories, right? At least 2 stories, right? Because it's like, okay, well, one branching path has you go this, so it's like you chose this, so you did something this way, and the other one a different way. So even though they might start in the same location, you have to have kind of like 2 separate kind of conclusions. And then you could have, like, you know, alternate little branching paths off of that, right? Like, one ends really short, or it's like, oh, you didn't pick this. Much easier to do. And then you have the 2 main paths where, yeah, like, you have one major choice on each path, where it does, okay, well, then this happens when you choose this choice, this happens when you do. But again, it's like, yeah, you still have to write all of that, animate all of it. I can understand it's a huge amount of effort. And so, like, me bitching and moaning, saying, well, they should just do that. Like, obviously, you know, that's coming from a gamer perspective. I like these things. And if they're just not seeing a lot of engagement for it, I understand why they don't want to. Whereas anecdotes are simple little things. They also appear on the world map. It could just be that one reason why they aren't as popular as well is just because they don't. Because like before, it was easy, right? Before, when I was opening up my, did I do this already? Oh, okay, I already did this. Before, when I was opening up my world quest, when I pressed this, it was instantly bringing up. It would instantly bring up the character quest. Now they've added an extra layer, so it's like, shit, now you actually have to, like, look through these things to actually find them all. Like, these appear on the map. You know, you can see how far you've progressed these by going to their respective tribes' stone, and then you can see the quest progression. These usually immediately appear on your thing, right? Where it's like, oh, hey, you have a quest to do. And you have something that instantly directs you to it, where it's like, oh yeah, see, there's a little exclamation point. when I go here, it was like, oh yeah, story quests. They have an exclamation point. You'd be like, oh, there's a Varka one. Okay, cool. I'll unlock that. But there's nothing to remind you about that. So once you do this Varka quest, the quest overview won't really show it to you. So I can understand there could be just some people who aren't even aware of them, which, you know, it's a shame because they are really interesting. So yeah, that's the problem. Is I didn't realize I had one, and so now I basically wasted an extra. I wasted a patch's worth of battle pass weapon on that. I'm like, God damn it! So now I'm behind. I did the same thing for this, although at least for this one I had the excuse that, oh, whoops, I didn't realize they didn't have the already owned aspect to it. So you had to do it purely off of memory. And so yeah. So I don't know why I redeemed the other one. Like realistically, it should have told me that I had how many constellations I had on it. So I do find that weird how I fucked up. There we go. There we go. Maxed out. Cool. Okay. It's still a decent weapon though. Like, so it's not terrible. The problem is that basically by the time, what I've noticed what they've done is that basically by the time you're able to max out. So they introduced the second set of weapons at the exact time where you would have been able to have maxed out R5 to every single battle pass weapon. So by the time you were able to max out R5 every single battle pass weapon, so basically 25 patches worth, I guess. So I think there's 5 weapons. R5 needs 5 copies. So basically after 25 patches, they were like, okay, on the 26th patch, that's when they introduced the next set of battle pass weapons. So right now, but I was always a week behind because I accidentally spent one of my weeks getting a duplicate of the Black Sword when I already had it R5. So I was always a week behind. So I was like, shit, on that 26th week, I had to R5 the last remaining battle pass weapon instead of getting a new one. Didn't really matter because I don't really use them that much, but still. So I'm always a week behind, and now I'm going to be 2 weeks behind if I want to R5 all the previous ones before going to the new set. But that also means that I just R5'd the 4th one, and as you saw, there's only 1 more left, which means I just need 4 more patches before I have R5 that one, but I'm 2 patches behind, so essentially in 2 patches, well, sorry, in 3 patches, we should see a new set of Battle Pass weapons. So, which actually might correspond with when Snezhnaya pops up, perhaps, and they'll be Snezhnayan themed or whatever. We'll see. But yeah, so yeah, so we should be expecting new Battle Pass weapons soon, unless they want to give people a little bit of leeway. And we're like, oh well, I don't think they will though, because like for people who've been playing since the game started, you don't want to have them. You don't want to force them to get duplicates of weapons that they already have and maybe don't need. And there's no real harm in introducing a new set, right? You might be like, well, it's hard for other players to catch up. It's like, yeah, like if you mean catch up in getting R5 of every single Battle Pass weapon, sure, right? It obviously becomes harder the later you start. But realistically, you don't need to R5 every single weapon, right? You have certain Battle Pass weapons work well for certain characters, so you just get the Battle Pass weapon that works for each character, and you could just start them out with R1 weapons, just get a copy of it. So it only takes you 10 patches to get a copy of every single current Battle Pass weapon. Well, every single Battle Pass weapon, you can get 1 copy, and then you can start using patches to R5 the ones that matter. But you can also save time and just not get weapons that you know are not going to be used by your characters. Because like the first round of Battle Pass weapons are insanely helpful. Like the Black Sword is kind of useful, but realistically it's not that great. Like it was great early on because it provided you with a method of healing. You know? Like, and if you're a normal attack, I mean, the fact that they're all crit rate is also helpful. But, you know, its main thing was like, yeah, it increases your normal attack normal charge attacks, but most sword users didn't really matter for that shit. Although technically it still kind of works well for, it would work well for, Ayaka. Because Ayaka actually does most of her attacks through normal attack damage. So, and getting that crit rate is kind of useful, because then you can go crit damage weapon and just rely on Cryo Resonance and Blizzard Strayer to provide all the rest of the remaining crit. Because like this will give her a 30% crit rate, and then with like the 15% from, I think Blizzard Strayer gives like 40% total, 20 from being cryo, 20 from being frozen, and then you get like a 15 for being for the cryo resonance. So it's like, yeah, so 55%, becomes 60% with the base 5% you get flat out. So this would give you 87% crit rate. That's all you need. So this would be fine for Ayaka, and then it provides you a little heal, which is like, okay, that's kind of cool. And then increasing normal attack and charge attack, which is what she primarily does. She's normally on the field doing normal attacks, cryo-infused normal attacks. So that's helpful. But like, not all weapons are that helpful. Actually, yeah, I forget what the other ones are. The Great Sword Battle Pass weapon. Oh, it's this one. Serpent Spine. Kind of useful. Honestly, we just don't have that many Great Sword characters that stay on the field. Because this one says you have to stay on the field a lot and avoid taking hits. So it's like, not amazing. So the spear. Deathmatch is kind of useful. Like, you get more crit rate, which is kind of cool. Increasing attack. Like, it's good. It's good against bosses. Like a 48% attack increase is super useful against bosses, and then you still, even against mobbing, having the defense increase is still kind of useful. And then crit rate is always kind of cool. So it's like, it's not terrible, but this one is just so good, right? Increasing elemental mastery, like crit rate is cool, but elemental mastery 240 is insane, right? Now the only problem, of course, is that it does restrict your team party composition. Normally you have like 2 and 2. You have 2 of one element, 2 of another element. You get both resonances. You get both elemental resonance. Problem with this is that you're going to need 3 different elemental types, which means you're only ever going to be able to have 1 elemental resonance if you have 2 of the same element and then 2 other elements that are both different. But then there's like, characters like Shillinen, which is Geo and wants 2 other elements. Although technically Shillinen can actually work with 2 Geo, 2 Hydro, or 2 High Pyro and stuff like that, because both elements will fill both of her Doritos. So the 240 elements mastery is really good. Because that's helpful. Now the crit rate is not super helpful with that, because like usually reactions don't crit, so having the crit rate doesn't really matter. But let's see. Oh yeah, Solar Pearl, kind of useful. This is an interesting one where it's good for characters that alternate between skill and burst. So if you're going to do a lot of normal attacks, then do your skill or burst. It's also kind of useful for, so like it's good for Ningguang, I was thinking Geo. Ningguang, because you do her normal attacks. You do her skill, which then empowers her normal attacks, and you do your normal attacks, which then empowers her next use of her skill, and then you continue doing normal attacks, and then you do your burst, which will get the bonus from your, like, 40% bonus. So it's good for characters that weave skills and bursts and normal attacks together. So Yanfei is also good with this. As mainline DPS, that's still useful. And I think this one is the new Battle Pass one, which is actually really cool for any HP or Elements Master Scaling Catalyst users. So it's good for Barbara. You want to heal and shit? She gets a 64% HP bonus off field, which increases the rate at which she heals. So basically, any sort of catalyst off field support that scales up HP or Elemental Mastery. Mostly HP, because obviously 64% HP is insane. That can also trigger reactions, will benefit from both the HP scaling of increasing their damage, as well as the Elemental Mastery for increasing whatever you're reacting with that Catalyst user. So still really useful. And then we had this one. It seems like that's kind of like the main difference between the two Battle Pass types, is that one Battle Pass type, the first set of Battle Pass was mostly for DPS. So this is another one where it's like, yeah, it's another good Battle Pass weapon, but you have to be doing like normal charge attacks. Has a slight CC to it. Crit rate is kind of useful. So honestly, not really amazing. But like, you know, if you're attack scaling, 80% of your attack is damage to these for an AoE. That attacks twice a second for 4 seconds is pretty good. Because that's 160% of your attack per second 4 times. So it's like a 400. Well, I mean, obviously it's 640% attack. 640% of your attack is damage to in an AoE. So it's definitely useful. But then the other one, this one actually is one of the only like DPS options for the second set. Like all the second ones were like mostly for support. But this one is an attacky one. So still, either way. So, but like, obviously, like there's only so many characters that could use them, right? Like this one, as I said, like Ningguang and Yanfei are pretty much like the only ones who could use this, or who would use this. And like as mainline DPS, they would use this if they were your main DPS, but like most people aren't going to use 4 stars as their main DPS. Now, obviously, if you're free to play or a relatively new account, sure, right? Definitely useful, but you're also not going to have R5 if you're free to play or have a new account. So it's kind of like one of those catch-22 things where they're helpful. They're helpful if you've been playing for a long time but are also free to play. But like not free to play. Like it's helpful if the only thing you've ever done is purchase the Battle Pass. So if you've been playing for a long time and only purchase the Battle Pass every patch, and that's the only thing you've spent, then sure, you're going to have a lot of good Battle Pass weapons, and maybe not as many characters because you don't have as much Premium Gems to spend, so stuff like that. It's... yeah. Anyway. Sorry, that was me getting distracted. But yeah, and I was talking about, like... And I started on my anecdotes thing. I don't know clue how I got into that. Oh, no, because I got my Battle Pass weapon. So... But yeah. So generally, it's just like... It's... So it's like, I do like the anecdotes, because like the anecdotes are pretty interesting. Like, hell, that little like Jehoda one was super cool. I really enjoyed that. But like, to expect that every character is going to have something like that... It's chasing after me, run! To expect that all characters have stuff like that is unrealistic. But yeah, so like anecdotes allow them to do little short stories. So you don't need a huge long thing to explain everything. You can just be like, oh no, like you can't think of a huge story. That's fine. Create a little short story about them, a little vignette. Some of them like are just a one-off thing where it's like, oh hey, how's it going? And they talk about their life or something they've been working on. And other ones are like multi-part. So like I assume we're actually going to get another Florind, Navia, D&D anecdote soon. Like they're presumably with Flynn's. I also find this a little weird too, right? It's like Like, oh, I'm surprised you know about us in Nodcry. It's like, dude, did you realize he was like literally with us in the Natland summer event, and we were talking about Nodcry. So it's like it's not crazy for him to have heard this shit, because the Natland summer event was like immediately before our Nodcry it was exploration, and we were chilling in the summer isles of Natland, talking about like what he did back in the day to like free up Natland or whatever he did. So it's like it's not crazy that he has his finger on the pulse to the goings on there, especially since we saw him, like literally saw him. He was actually on the islands of Natland, which are very, very close to Nodcry. And then of course, like where the winds literally could carry news to him, because he is the Animal Archon. Plus, there's the fact that like Varka is coming back. That Varka's coming back. He might have spoken with Varka about it too.
なるほど。月の狩人に博士。まあ、月の狩人を片付けた後、ワイルドハントもおとなしくなったのかな?
Oh, is Ratchet? Is it really a thing of the past, though? Like, I thought Ratchet used the Wild Hunt, but I thought the Wild Hunt was already a thing. So I thought he made it worse, but I didn't think it would cure it. I didn't think getting rid of Ratchet would also get rid of the Wild Hunt, because I thought he was just using the Wild Hunt and just made it like exponentially worse. But like I thought it was something that existed from before then. I thought it was just like a thing. I thought it came about because of the corruption of the Abyss, and because he was also Abyss related, he was also able to manipulate it to a degree. So yeah, I would kind of expect that Wild Hunt should be not as bad as it was, but it should still be there, shouldn't it? Unless maybe it's not just a Ratchet thing, right? Maybe getting rid of Ratchet significantly weakened the Wild Hunt, and then with the advent of Columbina, the two together eliminated the threat entirely. So basically, Ratchet made it exponentially worse and more concentrated and able to fuck things up, but he also used up a lot of his forces and used up a lot of the Abyss power in the fight, and so beating him drastically weakened them. And then of course they were leaderless now, so they are just like basically a blind Abyss mob. And then with the advent of Columbina and the birth of the Moon Goddess, who has close ties with the land, it could be that with her sudden influx of power, she was able to completely purify Nodcry, thus able to wipe out all the now weakened Wild Hunts, perhaps. Oh, okay. Never mind. Okay. Okay, so that's what I was kind of like, wait a minute, like what? Like, I just thought, like, he just made it exponentially worse. It shouldn't have eliminated it. So he didn't, right? So they were just saying, no, the Wild Hunt still exists, but without Rocher directly empowering them, they are now far more manageable, and so the Lightkeepers should be able to beat them without a huge issue. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that answers my other question. Is that maybe he heard from Varka? It's kind of hard to tell, because I'm pretty sure this quest came right when the patch came out. So the second the patch dropped, Varka's quest was here. So it seems like you should have done this quest first, and then started the Mondstadt event. Because in the Mondstadt event, Varka does also appear. Varka does pop up when they're preparing the festivities for a triumphant return of the Knights Favonius. So So it seems like you should have done this, because this will probably be like when he actually shows up and be like, oh, cool. Now Varka, here's Varka as he just arrived. And then we do this quest, and then Varka, after we do this quest, Varka goes into Mondstadt and then checks out how the party's being set up, and then gets caught by Jean, and then begins the event quest line.
あ、そうそう。オイラも前から気になってたんだけど。
正しくは半分寝てて半分起きてたって感じかな。あの日、僕は旋風の神殿で若い騎士が酒場で聞いた逸話や伝説にまあ出迎えたのは苔むした石の壁と遺跡守衛の猛攻だったけど、でも若者はまるで気にせず笑いながら飛んでくる弾を空へ
寝てるお前を起こしちゃうな。
そう。
Exactly like that. Oh wait, what? Who the fuck is this?
もっと本気で来い。
あんな感じかな。
Oh, is that the?
もうこうさんか。バルカが言ってたほどじゃねえな。
I've heard of him before. I think I even know it. I know his name, and when they say it, I'll be like, oh yeah, it's that guy. Fuck, I can't think of his. Well, I'm also terrible with names too. It's coming over.
セピロス騎士が土に汚れ、旋風の神殿を訪れるなんて。
Cryospheres are basically exactly like Mika, except he obviously seems like more like a DPS.
ちょうど探してたんだ。
銀融野郎？でも、なんで旋風の神殿に来たんだ？
金髪に白髪ってことは、俺はセピロス騎士団遠征軍所属。
Ah, Lowen. Yeah. I heard the name. But I mean, he was a dude, so I didn't really care that much.
一人で戦うのに慣れててな。ワイルドハントが猛威を振るってた頃はあんま拠点に戻ってなかったんだ。やっと連中もおとなしくなってきたんでモンドに戻ることになったんだ。
博士と戦ってた時にお前がいなかったのはそういう。
It's also like crazy because it's not like we ever met the entire host of knights, right? All of them were out doing their own shit. We just dealt with Varka, and then whatever knights were all already there.
手紙を届けるためだ。セピロス騎士団にセピロス教会、それから暁を。
あいつ、これで何回目だ？ミカにイネファにローエン。
Yeah, so they mentioned Mika. But like that's what Mika is, though. I thought like Mika was a scout. So like if you're gonna send anyone, you would send a scout. So it is kind of weird they would send him, who doesn't really seem like a scout. Although maybe he is. Like maybe he is a scout, because like. Why would he be by himself? He could be that he's going out to scout the area, but he's also incredibly strong, and that's why he's able to be a good scout, is because he can defeat enemies that he comes across if necessary, and still get away. Yeah, these nicknames definitely sound stupid in English. I bet they aren't as bad in Chinese or Japanese. But it's one of these things where it's like it ends up usually being an alliteration or a pun in foreign languages, which is just really hard to translate. So we have to be more literal in our nicknames, which makes them seem a little stupid and basic. Like Tone Deaf Guard is just so dumb, and I think like even in her like description of him, like she uses like Yaro, which is like bastard or jerk, you know. So it's just like, it's also, I think, less, maybe not less syllables, I'm not sure.
そう考えると、銀融野郎も
そんな解釈もできるのか？
旋風の神殿までわざわざ探しに来たってことは、僕は
Well, I mean, your nickname against him is fine, right? He just says, well, I just deny your tone deaf part. So like, so tone deaf or not, yeah, but like that's the whole point, right? He is a bard. That's why you call. But there's a huge difference between a bard and a tone deaf bard. Because tone deaf bard would be a bad bard, an incompetent bard, in theory, right? Obviously, Beethoven was able to produce music while deaf, but generally, I would not expect deaf people to be the best composers, right? So, or musicians in general. Obviously, can it happen? Of course, right? Especially now with technology and all the assistance there is for musicians and artists. But back in these days where you had to do everything yourself, yeah, like being deaf or being, especially, or not really being deaf, but being tone deaf means you just don't understand music. Which means your music is not going to be great. So, like, I think your name is, like, the fact that he has to remove portions of your nickname to be fine with it kind of signifies that you did choose a good nickname to be, quote-unquote, hard-hitting. Sir Wrights a lot obviously makes no sense. It's like, it's not really an insult at all. And also, it's like, I mean, I don't think it's super crazy to think that a guy who's returning after many years wants to, you know, send letters to let people know he's coming back. Like, especially as, like, the Knight Commander. It'd be one thing if it was like, oh, no, he's just some random soldier, and he's, like, constantly sending out letters to everybody, you know, keeping him up to date about shit. Like, that would be out of place. But for the actual commander to keep up a line of communication between people is not, like, unheard of. In fact, it's fairly common. Although, obviously, sending a letter to the winery seems a little unnecessary. If you're talking about official communications.
この手紙を緑の服を着た銀融詩人に渡してくる。住所はモンド城で聞き込みするか、旋風の神殿にいることにワンチャンかけろ。
ここにはサンドバッグじゃなくて遺跡守衛がいるから体もほぐせる。ってわけで
I'm so done with that.
すぐここに来たんだ。
I'm so done with that trope. It's just so played out. I just dislike it now. I actively dislike it. The whole, oh, I'm going to say one thing, but I really mean something else, right? So I'm going to say something insulting, like, oh, punching bag. Oh, wait, no, sorry, I mean this. The whole, I start to say something, and I realize, oh, shit, that's my true feelings, you know, leaking out. Let me change it to something more PC. I mean, to be fair, he does actually say the entire thing. Oh, this punching bag here, oh, sorry. You know, oh, sorry, we're going to go, like, who are you apologizing to? Like, well, you think we're going to defend the Ruin Guard? Oh no, you offended our sensibilities. You called a Ruin Guard, which is a monster we need to destroy anyway, something negative. So yeah, like, that's a little dumb. Obviously, like, in this case, well, in this case, it makes flat out no sense. Like, why are you correcting yourself when none of us give a shit, right? No, we have no personal investment with this Ruin Guard. Why the fuck are you correcting? Like, you can just leave it as punching bag. No, none of us care. Right? But typically what it's used for is, like, in conversations between people, they, like, describe another character, but, like, you know, as, like, a sucker, right? You often see it, like, a shady guy being like, oh, look, I found the next sucker, I mean customer, you know? Where they're clearly about to say sucker, but they're like, oh, no, I'm going to change it to customer. Like, it just happens way too frequently and is way too annoying. It just is so overplayed. Like, it was fine in the beginning, but, like, it just happens so frequently in, like, every single series nowadays, where it's like, oh no, their true thoughts snuck out. And, like, and does that actually happen? Like, does that really happen? Really? Are there really people who are so unthinking that they actually let what they secretly think out first before correcting themselves? Like, does that actually happen in the real world? Like, maybe that's it. Maybe I just don't have enough personal experience. Like, maybe I just don't know enough people. And so maybe there are people, and maybe there are a lot of people who let their thoughts come out in their words before realizing, oh shit, I shouldn't have said that, let me correct it. But it's also a kind of weird thing that also happens mid-sentence, right? So it's like, you get half of it out, and then realize, oh, whoops, I should correct myself. And then, like, why, right? Like, it's also kind of like, so it's stupid, I don't like it, but it also this insults everyone's intelligence. Like, they didn't hear what you said. It's just like, dude, we heard that you said sucker. We get it. Oh, whoops, like, from context, you are clearly going to say the word sucker. So, like, please don't insult our intelligence by correcting it and making it seem like, you know, it's like, dude, we get it. We understand. You're an asshole. You're trying to trick these people. You think of them as suckers. You know, it's just like, that's kind of like, it's a twofold thing I just don't like, right? It's the idea that someone's so stupid that they would, like, and so unthinking that they would let their actual thoughts come out and correct themselves midway, rather than just, like, this guy just flat out says it. Oh, punching bag. Oh, wait. Maybe that's not the best way of saying it. Makes no sense, because none of us give a shit what you call a ruin guard. But anyway, so it's like, he at least said it. And I can understand, like, after you've said something, you'd be like, actually, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Let me correct it, right? But, like, it's always, like, midway, right? And it's always like people thinking, oh, I'm so clever. Look, I'll have him start to say something bad, and then I'll have him correct himself mid-sentence to be a nicer thing. And then so it feels cheap and stupid. And then it's also like an insult to all your characters' intelligence that, like, no one seems to get it. No one ever seems to call them out for that shit, right? Like, some do, like, to be fair. There are some stories that actually do call them out and be like, wait, did you just call them suckers? And then say, no, I don't, you know, and then they move on. But it's like, I don't know, like, if I heard someone talk like that, I would be like, oh, okay, I'm disengaging from this conversation. I don't want to interact with this person. They're clearly an asshole. I'm done, you know? So, an asshole and an idiot. So it's like, why would I want to interact with a person with both of those traits, right? So, yeah, I never liked it. I don't think I ever liked it. But at least back in the day, it didn't happen that often. And so at least you could be like, okay, whatever. Like, but nowadays, it's just a common trope where you just see it happen so frequently, where it's like, oh, whoops, I almost said something bad, but luckily I caught myself and changed this to something better. Like, Dory does that too. I'm pretty sure Dory does the exact same thing in the few times we've interacted with her. Is that she does leak her thoughts about how, like, we're all suckers and she's going to rip us off and all that shit, and then corrects herself. I hate it, because it's like, especially for Dory, because, like, she's supposed to be a good merchant, and, like, what kind of good merchant can't control her own speak, right? She should be like plus 10 charisma, plus 10 speechcraft, right? She should be a very good talker. So someone who's very good, a very good talker would not make a mistake like that and let slip their real thoughts that are insulting about their customers into their actual speech. Like, it makes no sense. Because if that actually happened, she would be caught out. She would have been caught out many times, and she would have lost a ton of business deals. Now, obviously, she could. I mean, if she's a really good merchant, she can just work around it, work through it. And if she's able to provide enough absolutely necessary products for a good price, then people might ignore that. But generally, if you're fucking up just basic speech with normal people, like, I think you're not really a good negotiator if you can't control what you're saying. You know? So there's that. I can't remember if there's other characters like that. I think typically Dory, and now this guy, it seems, but Dory has, like, done it pretty much every time we've seen her. But then she also does, like, the inner monologue thing. I think is fine, right? Like, she does inner monologue where she, like, insults us or talks to us like rubes, or it's like, ha, they're dumb. I'll totally be able to rip them off. I'm fine with the inner monologue, right? Sure, you want to let people know that this person is an asshole or a manipulative piece of shit. Fine, that's what inner monologues are for. Like manga can do that, anime can do it, games can do it. Like, I don't understand why you have to force them to say it, because, like, the trope itself is stupid. It makes no sense. You have to be a complete fucking moron to actually say your true thoughts without thinking before correcting yourself. You know? You'd be like, oh, whoops. Like, so it means you just have, like, no filter. You're just, like, saying random bullshit, and then realize, oh, hey, mid-sentence, be like, oh, whoops. I shouldn't be saying that. That's a bad word, right? Who does that? No. Like, if you would say something like this, you'd also be kind of an asshole and wouldn't even realize how much of an asshole you're being. So, Yeah, generally, I don't like it. It's dumb. It's really overused. And then, so like, for Dory, it doesn't make sense because of her character setting, right? It doesn't make sense for Dory to not be able to control her speech and let things like that slip, because that's her fucking job. She does this for a living. You know, she negotiates for a living. How the fuck are you bad at the thing that's required for your job, right? How do you suck at that? You know, it makes no sense. You can't be as successful as you purport to be while also sucking at the main skill of your job. And then for this guy doesn't make... The reason why this guy doesn't make sense is not because of character settings. We honestly don't really know much about him. But the fact is, he corrected himself over a ruin guard. No one here cares about ruin guards. You'd be like correcting yourself over a hilichurl. Oh, a punching bag. Oh, I'm sorry, I mean hilichurl. I'm sorry, but like no one fucking cares about a hilichurl. You can call a hilichurl a punching bag. You can call a ruin guard a punching bag. No one fucking cares. Right? Why are you correcting yourself over something like that? Like, it makes no fucking sense. You know? Like, the reason why you correct yourself, and like the reason why Dory corrects herself, is because she was going to insult the people she's interacting with. Or, you know, and she's like, oh shit, I can't insult the people I'm talking to. I gotta stop. I gotta pump the brakes and correct myself real quick before they catch on. Like, people are morons and didn't hear to begin with. But it's like, yes, because it would insult them. But this guy's like, no, you're insulting something that no one gives a shit about. You know? It'd be like saying, oh, sorry, I accidentally stepped on that weed. I mean dandelion. And it's just like, oh no, you called a dandelion a weed? Well, good thing you corrected yourself, because now otherwise I'd be insulted. It's like, dude, no one fucking cares. Dandelions are weeds, right? But most people declare that dandelions are weeds. So it's just like, it's so stupid.
まあ、飲み友達のたわいもない話だよ。返事ね。ちょっと考えないと。他にも手紙があるって言ってたし。
もともとそのつもりだ。
It's also kind of weird. Like, why do you need to write back? Like, you live in Mondstadt. He's going to arrive in Mondstadt. Just, you know, you both are heavy drinkers. Chances are you'll see each other at the bar.
じゃあ、モンド城の栄誉騎士として、帰郷する人の道案内をしてあげたらどうかな。
そうだな。おいらもガイド役を。
そいつは助かる。ありがとな。
I do think his outfit is pretty cool. The mantle, I do like mantles like that. I think that looks pretty damn cool. Obviously, it's going to be a huge pain in the ass to animate that shit, because obviously it's going to have to, like, you know, you need physics for it. And, oh, I see, there's a space for his hand. I was going to say, and if it was a proper, like, mantle where it actually covered the entire shoulder, then actually, like, making sure it doesn't clip while you're doing all the animations will be tough. That's why, like, most games just kind of give up and be like, fuck it, things will clip. If it clips, it clips. That's what's kind of tough in, like, Final Fantasy XIV, is that, like, they don't really bother about clipping at all. So if you have long hair and any sort of, like, chest piece with a collar at all, your hair will just clip through the collar, and it looks really dumb. I don't like it. It's a shame. And so that's why, like, for the most part, I always had a hairstyle that was long hair, but it was, like, tied up, so it would never clip the stuff below. But then lately, most of the glams I've been using for my character have not had collars, so I've swapped back to a, oh, cool. Okay, I'll smack you over here. Bam. Oh, wait, what? Oh, I thought I got two charges of my burst. Or my skill, I mean. Oh! Do I only have two charges of my skill? For... Is that a constellation thing? Or is that a level thing, maybe? Or maybe it's a passive. Maybe at like level, maybe his like first or second passive gives him the ability to have double charges. Because like in the story quest we had with him, It was no, sorry, in the Mondstadt event quest, we had 2 charges of his skill every time we used him. So I don't know if that's a constellation thing where they gave him a multi-constellation Varka just to make him seem so insanely overpowered that everyone's like, oh no, we want Varka. We have to get Varka. Look how strong he is. Not realizing they gave us like a 6 constellation. I mean, they probably wouldn't be that cheap. Because that would be a little misleading if they gave us a C6 Varka and we're like, look how strong he is. You should get Varka. And then you realize, oh, actually, he has like a fraction of that power because it's much weaker than his C6. Maybe they only gave us a C1 or C2, which would be fine. You know, it's still a little misleading, but I'm not sure. I never actually bothered looking at our characters, like sheets, so I don't know what his build was. It could just purely be a level thing. It could just be his like first or second passive gives him a second charge of his skill or something. Oh yeah, I forgot. There was a place in Varka. There's a place in Nodcry where we met a bunch of wolves, and then there was a ghost wolf we could summon. But every time I went to summon him, he was like, "Nah, fuck off." So like it felt like there was some sort of condition. Maybe you have to have Varka. Maybe you need Varka in your party to have the ghost wolf say something. Was this when he first arrived in Mondstadt or something? Was he a wandering knight who then joined the Knights of Favonius and rose to captain?
お前の出番だ、相棒。来い、アンドリアス。だが故郷に戻るとなると、アンドリアス、そうだな。オレアス。不公平、不正、不義。
Oh, are we gonna get maybe his second? Did they not give us a second charge of his skill because we needed to absorb a little ghost wolf, and now we have a second charge?
やるべき喧嘩ってのはやっぱ一つだって逃しちゃいけねえよな。 遠征軍の状況はこんな感じだ。
Oh, I thought we actually have to fight him.
すぐ帰るから祝勝会とうまい酒をよ。それから日々の鍛錬をサボるなよ。戻ったらお前らの。
Wait, Varka sent something to Noelle specifically? That seems kind of weird. Because I don't think is Noelle actually part of the Knights of Favonius? I thought she was always trying to become one. I thought her whole thing was that she doesn't view herself as a Knight Favonius. She's trying to become a knight, but I think that's the whole thing. She's still trying. I don't think she actually has succeeded in any of the tests. I think actually that was the whole point of the Hangout event, is that she always seems to choke and fails the test, even though she is incredibly strong and useful and all that shit. And she still treats herself and dresses obviously as a knight. But I thought that was the interesting thing, is that she's technically not one. Oh, wait, do they all get letters? Oh yeah, they all have the letters. So wait, maybe she is a knight. I thought she wasn't a Knight of Favonius. Oh, maybe I'll have to double check her thing. Because obviously, yeah, everyone else besides Noelle is... Yeah, she said... And yeah, she said that, I'm not a real knight. That's what she always has said. It's also kind of weird, right? Because like Noelle doesn't look super old, right? And Varka's been gone for like years, right? So if he's been gone for like many years, then would Noelle have been old enough for her to have been even trying to be a knight at that time? Because like, you know, she looks like she's like 18 or something. And if Varka's been gone for 5 years, like, I mean, it could be that she was always trying to become a knight even at 13, right? So maybe even since like she was 10, maybe she's been trying to do knightly things and trying to help the Knights of Favonius. And so Varka has seen her trying to work really hard for 3 years until he left when she was 13, and then still remembered her, maybe.
ゴンよ。確かセピロス教会の友人とただ情報収集とお酒を飲みに行くの半々ってところでしょうね。
なんか知り合いに会えそうだな。ガイアへの手紙は。
お、そいつは助かる。
ご苦労だった、ローエン。
The other two.
残りの手紙は
Obviously, Diluc is one of them, right? So Kaya, Diluc, and who's the third one, though? The third one that would be at Angel Share. The third one that would be at the bar. Six-fingered Jose? Or maybe it's the bartender?
ああ、でも休憩はいい。最近またボレアスの試練を通過した奴がいるって聞いた。
そうか。だが、あそこの。
ああ、わかってるよ。
ファルカ大だ。栄誉騎士。
Okay, but I think we're going to go ahead and call it here, because I've been walking for an hour and 7 minutes. Ooh, hey, Dylan.
私の腕前が落ちていないか試した。あの人の本気君は見たことあるでしょ。
Let's see. Okay, so that's all pretty good. Achievement? Is that... Oh, yeah. I did that last time. And it's probably the name card that I got from the Selenic Chronicles, right? Yep. That looks nice. And now, finally, I'm going to be working towards getting the fucking wings, which I don't have. But yeah, anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and call it here. I will be back on shortly, because I'm going to be playing Dragon Quest II. We'll see how far I can get. I just need 2 more sigils to go. One of which, in theory, should be pretty easy to get. And the other one definitely is going to involve a boss. And then we're going to wake up Rubis, so I'm not sure how much story is left. But I still don't have the ultimate key, so I don't know if there's just going to be a lot of places that just don't exist at the moment. So I don't know, like, how much after waking up Rubis, is it like, okay, now you've unlocked the final boss, or is there still more shit to do? Well, I know there's more shit to do as in like more side content, because I don't have all of Edric's armor set yet. But like, I am kind of curious if like, when am I going to get the ultimate key? Like, I would assume there'd be some sort of plot line before finally going after Hargan that will be getting the ultimate key, and then like I would expect at least I would get the key before going into the final dungeon, so that I can like do everything, so I can like collect everything before trying to do the final boss. But I'm not really sure, because it's been so long since I beat the game. I can't remember at all. But either way, so yeah, so I'll be playing Dragon Quest II for a lot of the remainder of the day. And then I'll probably play a little more Paradigm. I might beat Paradigm. Depends how long I played Dragon Quest II. Although realistically, I'm probably not going to play Dragon Quest II for more than 5 hours, because it is a grindy game that really wears down on you. Like, it's fine in small doses, but like games back in that era, kind of like they prioritize like increasing game time. Which is kind of like how like World of Warcraft does it too, which is why I don't like it as much. It's because it's just unnecessarily grindy, because it's like, well, we want you to be playing a lot of time. And the reason why like old games did it is because like if you ever rented games from like Blockbuster or video game rental stores, you know, you would need to obviously rent the game multiple times to be able to beat it because of how grindy and repetitive and challenging it was, right? That's the thing, is that like if a game takes 30 hours to beat, but you can only put in a few hours a day, then you're going to need to rent it out multiple weeks before you can beat it. And that's why they made them so grindy, is because like, well, yeah, you need to spend a few extra hours of grinding, or else you just can't beat the boss because you just don't have the stats. Or the other way they did it was like making them incredibly challenging. So it would extend playtime by making it excessively challenging, so you just needed a lot of time and runs to do it over and over and over again before you could actually like clear a level. So like Lion King was a famous game for that, in that some of the levels were incredibly challenging and punishing, where it's like, yeah, you make one mistake, you die, and now you have to start the level over again. And so it's just like it took you a long time to do that. And then you only had so many lives, so once you run out of lives, it's like, yeah, so they made games challenging, so it's like, okay, you're going to have to spend a lot of time because you're eventually going to die and going to have to start over. Or at the very least, start the level over. So there were the two ways they did it. They either made it incredibly grindy or incredibly challenging and punishing, so that one way or the other, you would have to spend a lot of time on the game. And luckily, they have a lot of new, like, they have like ways to speed up battles in Dragon Quest. You can lower the difficulty to make things easier. So like there are ways to kind of remove that grind, which definitely improves the pacing of them. I think when I did Dragon Quest 1 a normal difficulty, enemies were just tedious. They did way too much damage, and it took way too many turns to kill. Like exploiting a weakness didn't kill them, unless you were doing something so insanely overpowered like Gigadyne, where it's like, yeah, sure, you do Gigadyne, and it's an AoE lightning spell, and pretty much nothing was resistant to it. Like most things were either weak to it or at least not resistant to it. There was a few things that were, but generally, if you did Gigadyne, it was such a heavy hitting, like 500 damage attack that it would pretty much kill everything. But it also cost like 40 MP, so it's like incredibly, and you only had like 200 or 300 MP, so it's like you didn't have that much. So it's like only a few of those spells and you're tapped. So, but like, or you do your other attacks, but you would, even if you're exploiting a weakness where it's like, oh, they're weak to fire and I do Flame Slash, yeah, I need 2 Flame Slashes to kill an enemy. And they can do, and you're all, by the end game, you're fighting enemies that can do multiple hits in a single turn. So you're fighting skeletons that can do you're fighting dragons and skeletons that can do 2 hits per turn. They can go twice per turn. So it's like they're hitting for non-negligible amounts. Like even though they're hitting for like 10% of your health, that's like if they're hitting for 10% of your health twice per turn, and that's per enemy, and you're fighting like 3 to 4 enemies a go, your health is being chunked repeatedly. And then that's of course assuming they don't crit, which they can sometimes do. So it's just like it was rough because you have to kill them as quickly as you could. But it takes multiple turns to do so, and they also do multiple turns of damage per turn. So it's a constant like, okay, you kill one, then you defend, get your MP back, and then you kill another, defend a bunch, get your MP back, and then kill another, and then with your restored MP, heal yourself, and then continue. It was like just incredibly tedious for endgame like leveling and shit like that on normal difficulty, and it's just like, and then hard, and there's even a harder one where it's like you get even less EXP and gold, so it's like you just adds an additional layer of the grind where it's just like, yeah, like why? Like, I mean, it's whatever, right? Like for me, I'm playing it for the story, so like I kind of want to get it done as quickly as possible. Like I'm not really into the grind. Like the grind is something you do because it's required to do the story. Like I'm fine with that. Like, okay, sure, I need to be this level to beat this boss. Fine, I'll do that. But generally, I kind of prefer it when a game levels you naturally to the level you need to be by the time you fight the boss. So that like if you're doing all the content, then by the time you get to the final boss, you should be the level that you need to beat it. Right? Most games do it. There's only a few games that like don't, where it's like, oh, actually no, you need to spend your time grinding before. And there's other games that like don't do leveling systems not really the proper way, but do a classic way, like Final Fantasy X with the sphere grid, where it's like, well, shit, like you don't really do you have a level per se? I don't know if you actually have a level. I don't think you have levels. You just have AP, and basically you use the AP to like unlock shit on the sphere grid. And so it's like you don't really have a level, but you do have stats, and your stats are leveled by the sphere grid. And and then you can also hop around on the sphere grid. You can manipulate your position on the sphere grid. So it's like it makes it really kind of hard to be like, oh, you have to be this, this quote unquote level, because like you didn't really have a level. So that obfuscates that to a degree. And I do remember grinding a lot in Final Fantasy X. But also, grinding in that game was much easier, where it's like if you exploited a weakness, you usually killed them in one hit, and I think that's kind of how it should work. It should be like, oh, if you don't exploit a weakness, they get another turn, so you want to make sure you do it. And then, of course, for like the strong enemies, sure, that might take more than one hit. But like for basic enemies, they should die in one hit if you exploit the weakness. That's how it should work. And so like, the idea is that you either have lots of tiny enemies in a fight, or one or two strong and elite mobs in a fight. And so it's like, yeah, for the tiny enemies, you kill them all in one hit by exploiting their weakness. And for the big one, you might need like 3 to 4 hits while exploiting their weakness to kill them. And like that's a nice balance. But like Dragon Quest games were like, no, pretty much every enemy is treated like an elite enemy, where it's like, in the beginning of the game, yeah, if you exploited a weakness, you would kill them. But basically by the end game, exploiting weaknesses didn't. And like sometimes you didn't even need to exploit weakness 2 times. You could just exploit a weakness and do a normal attack the next time, and kill it. So it's like you just did slightly less damage than what you needed to do to kill it in one hit, which is always just kind of frustrating. And then added on to the fact that Dragon Quest games you're far more likely to miss than any Final Fantasy game ever. Like Final Fantasy games, like you'll usually hit. And the only times you ever really miss is if the enemy did something to affect your accuracy or improve their evasion, right? So if they blind you, then now you might miss, right? And that makes sense. Oh, okay, blinding matters because now you're less likely to hit. But in Dragon Quest games, even completely unaffected, you have like a 10% chance to miss, which is fucking annoying. And then some enemies are just more evasive just by default, and so you're more likely to miss too. So it's like, oh my god, there's a lot of elements in Dragon Quest games that just made combat far more tedious than I would like. Where it's like you had to grind for more. It's harder. Every single battle is slightly harder, so which just makes it take longer than normal. The fact that you had to do tons of them like all the time. Yet there's so many battles, and then the fact that like your group spells don't really affect all enemies; they only affect a group. So if you have getting enemies that are all the same group, all the same type, means they're all in the same group, which is great because now your group spells can now work. But then fighting enemies where it's like, oh, there's 4 different types. You're fighting 4 enemies and they're all different races, different types of enemies. Now you can't use any of your group spells because any group spell is just going to attack the one enemy of that type, which is like, fuck, that's annoying. So just a lot of little things just make the game more tedious and made the battles themselves less enjoyable because they just are artificially difficult with all these extra little things, like having your group spells not being able to attack all groups of enemies, but all enemies' group spells attack every single one of you. Oh, you do a fire breath, it hits one enemy. They do a fire breath, it hits all of your party members. It's like really, like, yeah, just the levels of unfairness are kind of annoying. And then like, if they just got rid of those like extraneous things, it would definitely be more enjoyable. And then like enemies also in the game are far more likely to do buffs and debuffs than like any Final Fantasy game. Like most Final Fantasy games, yeah, sure, you might have one enemy. It's like, yeah, sure, we sometimes poison. But realistically, you rarely ever actually needed status ailment guards. Like maybe there'd be one enemy in the game that's like, oh shit, it's fairly common for them to do this. So you might want to bring some sort of protection against a boss or something like that. But like, it was few and far between. And if you went without a single status ailment thing, you'd mostly be fine. The only caveat to that would be just Marlboros. Marlboros in general is like, yes, they have bad breath, afflicts all your party members with a litany of ailments. They were the classic enemy that's like, yes, they are the annoying ones. But like in Dragon Quest games, so many enemies cast buffs on their party members and debuffs on you. And ailments on you too. It's like, they cast... So it's like, you're fighting a ton of enemies that constantly do Like, pretty much in every battle, you're going to have an enemy try to do some sort of status ailment or something on you. Like, if you're fighting a multitude of enemies, like, yeah, one of them is going to have a status ailment thing, and he's going to try it. So you have to constantly have your accessories to protect against this shit. So it's like, it just adds a level of tediousness, because obviously if they ever succeed, because even for like the Banishing Bell, like, so basically you want every single character with a Banishing Bell, because it increases the likelihood of you not getting afflicted by something. And if you equip 2 Banishing Bells, you're pretty much immune to everything. So it's like 2 Banishing Bells equals 1 ribbon to a degree. Maybe not. Maybe it might not be perfect, but it is like a 90% resist type thing. So it's like, cool. You can basically be immune with 2 Banishing Bells, but that means you can no longer have any sort of other buff. You can no longer have any other sort of accessory that could buff another stat or something like that, which is kind of a shame, because it's like, well, fuck, now you have to pick one over the other. Like, do you want to not have to worry about status elements, which generally is kind of worth it, but like still like, it doesn't happen all the time. The fact that you can resist it is still kind of helpful, and there's a lot of shit, and then bosses like I fought a boss where it was like, yeah, he casts sleep all the fucking time, and always casts it on the one character who does most of my damage, and it's like, fuck, what a dick. He just keeps casting sleep on him. Every time he woke up, he'd cast sleep again the next turn, and could attack twice, which was fucking annoying. So it's like, yeah, he casts sleep, and it's not like, oh, well, he casts sleep, well, that just wastes his turn then. Cool, I'll just have, as long as I can keep him awake, keep waking him up, then that's not a problem. He'll just waste his turn casting sleep again, and I can just have my other characters attack. But no, he's like, no, he casts sleep and then does another attack. And a lot of his attacks also did AoE, so it's like, you also need to heal. It's annoying. So yeah, just battles were definitely more strategic, but there's a lot of layers to them that made them more annoying and more tedious. And then it just combined with the fact that you have to do so many battles, because levels really do matter. It's the fact that they kind of really, really, really encourage grinding. It's like, come on, man. Anyway, but yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and call it. I will be logging out, getting something to eat, and then coming back in and playing Mario Dragon Quest 2. We'll see if I can beat it, but I doubt I will, because even if it's like, get the 2 sigils, wake up Rubus, and then go after the main boss, like, I'm sure there's going to be like a bunch of other side content, other like bosses and like stuff to explore, and I still need the ultimate key, and once I get that, I need to go around and get all the ultimate key chests and all that shit. Anyway, so I will be back. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.